Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Business Point on Global Television. I'm Queen Agaba, and of course on Business Point we x-ray Nigeria's economy. We talk about tech and innovation as well as government policy. Today we're looking at the Naira comeback following a bouquet of reforms launched by the Apex Bank to sanitize the foreign exchange market at the inception of President Bola Tinubu's administration. The local currency had received direct hit from attackers who are mostly currency speculators. However, the Central Bank of Nigeria appeared to have finally subdued arguably one of the most grueling and multifaceted attacks on the Naira in recent times. According to data compiled on a daily turnover on the official Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market, NAFEM, it was revealed that the market has recorded a total turnover of $12.66 billion over 3 months. The trend in the daily turnover shared fluctuations in the value, with some days recording relatively low turnovers and others recording high amount. Joining me on the program is Cadmus Atake Nada, business consultant and environmentalist, to discuss this trend after this break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. So while we try to get our guests connected, let's take a look at what's happening in the world of business. The Naira on Friday experienced a slight fall at the official window, trading at 1,169.99 Naira to the dollar. The data from the official trading platform of the FMDQ Exchange, a platform that oversees the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market, NAFEM, revealed that the Naira dropped by 1.38% as against the 1,154.8 Naira per dollar traded on April 18th. The local currency, on the other hand, depreciated by 17.14% to 1,230 Naira per dollar from 1,015 Naira per dollar on April 17th. President Bola Tinubu has sounded the alarm over the inextricable link between illegal mining operations and the financing of terrorist activities across Africa. Addressing regional leaders at a high-level summit, counter-terrorism summit in Abuja, Tinubu urged the international community to take concrete actions to halt the inflow of funds from outside the continent that enables such illicit activities. Tinubu highlighted the complex challenge facing the continent as it grapples with the evolving tactics employed by terrorist organizations to continuously finance and re-equip themselves. He underscored the urgency of tackling this issue head-on through international cooperation and strengthened regional mechanisms. The presidency has said it is set to launch about 2,700 compressed natural gas-powered buses and tricycles before May 29th, when President Bola Tinubu returns 1 year in office. It said the federal government was set to deliver 100 conversion workshops and 60 refueling sites spread across 18 states before the end of 2024. The special advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga, revealed this in a statement he signed titled Presidential CNG Initiative Set for Rollout. The federal government, through the Nigerian Shippers Council, has stated that it will mandate port service providers and users to register on the council's online portal by the third quarter of 2024. The executive secretary of the NSC, Pius Akuta, disclosed this during a sensitization program for stakeholders on the registration of regulated port service providers and users at the council's headquarters in Lagos. He reiterated the importance of adherence to the online registration requirements by all service providers in the port, adding that it was in line with the duty of the council as enshrined in Section 4 of the NCS's regulation of 2015. The NSC boss highlighted the evolution of payment processes from manual to automated systems within the council and underscored the benefits of registration. He emphasized the mandatory nature of registration, warning that non-compliant entities would face stern consequences. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll bring you the conversation on the Naira comeback. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, if you've just joined us, this is Business Point, where we x-ray Nigeria's economy. We talk about tech, innovation, and government policies. Like I earlier reiterated, following a bouquet of reforms launched by the Apex Bank to sanitize the foreign exchange market at the inception of President Bola Tinubu's administration, the local currency had received direct heat from attackers who are mostly currency speculators. However, the Central Bank of Nigeria appeared to have finally subdued arguably one of the most grueling and multifaceted attacks on the Naira in recent times, according to data compiled on a daily turnover on the official Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market, NAFEM. It was revealed that the market has recorded a total turnover of $12.66 billion over 3 months. The trend in the daily turnover shared fluctuations in the value, with some days recording relatively low turnovers and others recording high amount. Joining me on the program is Cadmus Atake Enade, business consultant and environment, to discuss, this trend. Good morning, Mr. Cadmus.
Yes, good morning. How are we doing?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Right. Okay, could you provide, following this trend, an overview of the current status of the Naira in the international market and its recent performance domestically?
I would say at the moment, the Naira issue against the dollar is not very palatable to me, but with the policies and strategies that CBN has put in place, I believe that there will be some form of reduction in the there will be some form of reduction in the rate of in the exchange rates as it is. But as it is at the moment, it has been on the high side. And for some weeks now, it has not been easy with business people doing business, especially with foreign currencies, because for you calculating the exchange rate and as it relates to you making profits for your business is quite difficult. So I think the turning point for the naira was the CBN's clearance of the FS backlog. The FS backlog of a request estimated to worth about 7 billion that the CBN had to put in place some weeks back. I think that actually helped a lot to try as much as possible to regulate the exchange rates between the naira and the dollar. But however, it has not actually reduced the impact on the masses, the impact on the society, because in Nigeria presently, everything we do boils down to naira and dollar exchange. Imagine the cost of food rising high, increases in items and all that. And by the time you try to ask some questions why, people will definitely refer to you back to the exchange rates of the naira and naira against dollar and all that. So this has not been really good issue for Nigeria as a country. So I think the policies that are put in place are quite good, and but the impact shouldn't be placed more, or the burden of the impact shouldn't be placed more on the masses. Rather, they should look at ways of subsidizing the pains and the stresses the masses go through, because if there is any increase in or changes in these exchange rates, it affects how the people live and how the economy thrives. So these processes are quite okay, but I think they can do better.
We've seen how much the policies have impacted the naira so far, but what can we expect in the near future?
Well, I think our expectations are high, and we believe that with the policies on ground, they will be able to stabilize the naira against the dollar to a certain extent. But even at that, we should start looking inward and not outwardly, because majority of the challenges we face as regarding the dollar and naira exchange is that we have focused more on our business people concentrating on comparing the naira to dollar when they want to like do a business or a quotation and all that, rather than using the naira, which is our local currency. They prefer to give you quotations in dollars, in USDs, even while we are making our budget as a country. Instead of the country to use the local currencies that we have, they will be estimating the country's budgetary stuff in USDs, comparing it with the prices of crude oil in the international market as it relates to dollars and all that. All those are issues that needs to be tackled. Until we look inward, until we value the naira that we have, it will be difficult for us to actually have a way to balance the equation. It will actually be difficult to balance the equation, because us not placing value on our currency is difficult for it to have a value and a base as a people. So we need to start looking inward and stop making quotations, stop equating our economy with other economics of the world that the society is based on the dollar, based on the euro and all that. We are Nigerians, for God's sake. We need to start holding back to what matters to us, indigenizing our own product, indigenizing our own currency. This will help us to the naira to gain value. And another aspect is that we need to also look at our issues of consumption. We consume a lot of imported goods, imported items, foreign items. And funny enough, Nigeria is not a producing or a manufacturing country. We are dependent on export. We are dependent on incoming a product from outside this country. And that is where the problem lies. For an organization or a business person to bring in goods, he has to equate his product as it is in the internet as in respect to the exchange rate between naira and USD, and that is a big challenge. So until we learn to look inward and learn to patronize our local manufactured goods, it will be difficult for us to actually stabilize the naira against the USD. And even the politicians per se, they too, they are part of the crisis we are experiencing. They should also learn how to equate their expenses in naira, not in USD. We don't spend USD in Nigeria. We don't go to the market to spend USD. We spend naira in the market. So they should learn to start making their budgetary allocations, making their what is it called now? Senatorial projects, calculating them in naira and not in USD. So this, by the time we start doing this, localizing our economy, it will help us greatly to balance the currency exchange, and not us having this issue of dollars rocketing to 1,200 and thereabout. So we need to start looking at these issues.
Talking about localization and diversification, in what ways, could, diversifying the Nigerian economy beyond just oil, how can that help the naira? Can you just, throw more light on how, diversifying, I beg your pardon, the Nigerian economy beyond oil well will strengthen the naira?
Well, as it is presently, oil is actually fading out, and the world is transiting to renewables and all that. And localizing our environment, localizing our economy is very vital. In the past, Nigeria was not dependent on oil. In the past, Nigeria had various regions in the country had what sustained them. You go to the north, you have the granite pyramid, you have rice production, you have millet production, you have maize production and all that. And farmers were doing well. The northerners were doing well. Exchanges of goods were going on. Currency was changing hands, and the economy was balanced. In the south, you have rubber plantations and all that. In the southern part, in the southwestern part, you had the palm oil production and all that. So, and even in the south zone, Edo State and some other places, you had the palm oil as well. That was when the Oil Palm Research Institute came into being. Then oil palm was flourishing. The economy was flourishing. But presently, the economy is totally focused on fossils. That even first and foremost, it's not environmentally friendly. It leads to a lot of environmental crises. It leads to a lot of environmental challenges. So why not we go back to the drawing board and start looking at how we can enhance our agricultural produces using natural and traditional means of farming that were used in the past, that produced sufficient food for our people, that created enough internal generated currencies for the states and for the nation, even the local communities. We need to start looking at this. But by the time we focus on externalities, we focus on industrial produce, we focus on importation of goods and all that, we will keep having the issues of dollar increase here and there. Because the more you require require dollar to purchase your items, the more the exchange rates will go up. It's simple economics, the law of demand and supply. When the demands are high, the cost becomes high as well. And people that are providing these currencies are not much. So CBN cannot actually stand alone and try as much as possible to provide the needed funds that would fast track Nigerian being on the track of importation. We need to start doing and sourcing for local ways of making things possible. There are communities that have abundance of locally produced items that can be sold and even exported out of this country. But rather, we prefer to import rather than looking inward and encouraging people to produce locally that can be exported out of this country that will bring in currency for us. We prefer to give out the currencies and bring exchange in. It doesn't work that way. By the time we localize what we produce, we localize our agriculture, we have our agricultural values in place, our agricultural produce in place, we can be exporting and foreign currency will be coming in. By the time there are much influx of foreign currency, the dollar will drop because by then it will be abundant with the CBN. It will drop. But if the dollar is scarce, then the prices will go up. It's just simple economics. So we need to localize our economy and we need to do away with fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are killing us. Our dependency on fossil fuel is what is putting us in this mess.
Very well said. And speaking about localization, we also need investors. And we've had cases where we see investors exit Nigeria. I want us to look at measures that we can implement to boost investor confidence again in Nigeria that would potentially lead to, a stronger Naira and, localization as well as investment in our local product.
Well, one of the key issues about people leaving, about local companies leaving the country, one, it still goes back to importation of items that are used for production purposes, because majority of the things that are used for production are actually imported when some of those items can be produced locally, can be sourced for locally. But being that we don't value our local product or we don't place importance on our local product, it becomes difficult for us to actually concentrate on using our local product, rather importing product. And by the time the exchange rate is high, manufacturers and local producers that are importing items, that are buying items that are imported into the country to produce their goods, will no longer be able to meet up. So what would they do? They rather move to places where they can have the exchange rates at low, their production rates at a lower cost and all that. And secondly, for government, we will need to start encouraging these indigenous companies by tax waivers. Tax waivers is one thing that encourages people to do business, not somebody opening up a small a manufacturing store, a small production store, and by the time you know it, the local government comes there to ask for tax clearance receipt. Internal revenue people comes there to ask for receipt. Federal internal revenue people come, other tax and all sort of taxes begin to come in. And by the time taxes begin to come, your sources of expenses are more than what your profit. Then you just have to move to places where they have tax waivers. When we have good tax waivers and the government subsidize items of manufacturing items for producers, it will be conducive for them to scale through. Then another aspect is the issue of energy, the issue of electricity. When they are conducive and balanced electricity in a place, the manufacturers tends to stay put, because at the moment manufacturers complain a lot. They spend more on purchase of diesel and all that to run and to power their machineries that helps in producing what they want to produce. So at the end of the day, all these things have ripple effects on the cost of items that is produced locally. Imagine somebody producing, let's say, producing sacks for packaging of locally made rice, for instance. You have to get the materials, the bags. You have to use machineries to sew. You have to seal and all that. By the time you calculate the expenses and all you put into this production, it is even more than what you get out as profits at the end of the day. Not to talk of the tax you'll be paying to the various revenue collection houses. Local government is there. State internal revenue collection is there. Federal internal revenue collection is there. And so what's not? These things are choking our business people. They are choking our industrialists. So rather than them dying here and their business crumbling down and their families suffering, they rather go out to other places, move out of the country to find suitable places that are suitable for them to run their businesses, and where they can have stable power supply that will keep them going. So if these things are put in place, the tax waivers, tax reductions, subsidizing production items and all that for business people, government providing grants for people that are into businesses, small scale and medium sized businesses, and small scale manufacturers, farmers, grants and all that. It will help a lot to boost the local economy. It will help a lot to reduce the level of people running out of the country to establish business packing out of the countries. And again, they should create enabling environment for companies that operate in Nigeria, even if they are international companies. Because at a point in time, a lot of companies have moved out of Nigeria, most especially when you talk about the healthcare sector. A lot of healthcare companies have moved out because they cannot cope with the situation of things, the power problem, the foreign exchange challenges, import duties and all that is placed on importation of goods and all that. It's shocking. Imagine the other time they increased import duties. Import duties was increased with about 45 or 46%. 46%. So how would a small business person thrive when you are importing your products and all that, and the clearance fee is higher than the profit you make? It's better you just remain where you are than saying continue with the business. So it becomes a major problem. So until these things are put in place, tax waiver, grants are provided, standby electricity for standby electricities and all that, it will be difficult for people to want to stay. So the government needs to start looking at how electricity can be provided and sustained, how the tax can be reduced drastically for small scale and medium scale business people that are into manufacturing, producers and farmers, and also the provision of grants and support for farmers and local producers. This will go a long way to encourage people to go into manufacturing and production more and more. Thank you.
Yeah, and just talking about provisions for farmers, provisions for small scale businesses, farmers and all that. I was privileged to attend a meeting of local farmers. When I say local farmers, I mean those who are practical in the farms. And one of their concerns, their major concern, is that they hear and they see that these grants are provided, but it doesn't get to the grassroots. I know we're drifting a bit, but this is one of the things that we need to talk about if we're talking about turnover for the economy. And that these tools, these grants, these resources don't get to the actual farmers, but maybe those that sit in their offices and know the language of farming and all that. How do we bridge this gap to ensure that these people get the resources that are meant to be for them?
Well, thank you very much for raising that issue. One issue about that is this. Most times we sit on the high horse and try to support people at the grassroots level, and that doesn't work. For you to actually get to the people at the grassroots level, you have to bring yourself from the high horse that you are sitting on down to the grassroots level. Go to these communities. We know communities, we know states, we know areas that are farmers. We know states that will have farmers. We know people that are into farming. Why not liaise with groups, farmer groups, cooperative societies that are created by that are created by farmers? Go to these cooperative societies in the local government areas. Go down to the local government areas. Call these cooperative people in groups. Ensure they have a registered cooperative that is known. It might not be a CAC registered cooperative, but a cooperative that is localized in the community and is well known, and is known that is being run by farmers planting maybe rice, or farmers planting maybe beans, or farmers in just that community. Go to these communities, meet the community leaders, discuss with them, tell them we need to see your farmer group leaders. They come, you go to the areas, you supervise these people, know that they are really farmers. Not you sitting in your high horse and start telling people we have farmers in so and so localities and we are giving them grants, apply, we are bringing forms. How many farmers will now start filling forms? How many of these farmers know how to write and fill those kind of forms? Because at a particular point in time come across a form for grant for farmers, and the information needed is not what a farmer can even fill. A typical farmer, somebody that is really into farming. Most of these farmers are not literate people, so they find it difficult to even write or read. Rather, they talk and people write what they want to do, aside having large-scale farmers and all that. And even the large-scale farmers are not actually the ones that are supposed to be beneficiaries of grants and all that. The local farmers are the ones that are supposed to be beneficiaries of this grant. So the government should find a way through the local government, through community councils, through community leaders, through community chiefs, and groups, CSOs, and all, to get down into the grassroots, to get down to the people, not sitting somewhere in Abuja or sitting somewhere in Lagos or sitting somewhere in one of the ministries and telling the people that we have grants to provide to farmers, mention one exorbitant amount, and at the end of the day, nobody knows where that amount goes into. And the people that are supposed to be beneficiaries of this grant are not having even a dime, or even seeing a dime, or even seeing one government official in their community to support them with any amount. So they need to go down to the communities, discuss with the community leaders, talk with community people, organize seminars, organize trainings for farmers, and all that. All this will bring the real farmers out. And by the time farmers hear that they are having trainings with farmers, the government is having a training with farmers, they want to support the farmers and all that, they will pull themselves together and come out en masse to ensure that they learn and get ideas. We've over time, we've organized farmer trainings like this, and we have come across a lot of farmers, and it's the same stories they tell us. The grants, we don't get it, but yet we hear in the news that grants have been provided for farmers.
Rightly said. We'll have to take a quick break, Mr. Cadmus. When we come back, we'll take the conversation back to the Naira comeback and the central bank interest rate and monetary policy, how it has shaped the trajectory of the Naira and more. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, if you've just joined us, this is Business Point on Global Television, where we x-ray Nigeria's economy. We talk about tech innovation as well as government policies. And before the break, we have been speaking with Cadmus Atake Enade, who is a business consultant and environmentalist. Now, Mr. Cadmus, let's go to the central bank's interest rate and monetary policy. How has that shaped the trajectory of the naira? And also, let's also look at global economic trends and events and how they've influenced the naira, and what should Nigerian policymakers be most concerned about?
Okay, thank you very much. I think the policies of CBN are quite good, but again, the interest rates 24.75% is quite high because it will drive more of inflation in the society. And as it is, I think it has even contributed to the inflation rate, because when there are increase in interest rates for bank loans and other business interest, it becomes a crisis to the people, because every one dime you add to the interest rates in a country, it actually increases the economic, either affects the economic growth of the country or destabilizes the economic growth. Because most times at the beginning of the year, most companies focus their attention on the present rates of interest, and that is what they make their budget upon. And by the time changes comes all of a sudden, it actually affects the organization's budget for that year. It affects the staff's budget for that year. It affects the cost of running that business for that year. It affects, if it's company that imports goods or export goods, it affects the rate of import and exportation as well. So these policies shouldn't just come suddenly. It's something that would or should be coming gradually. You don't just hit people on the head and tell them, knock people on the head and tell them stop, when you've not given them warning initially. You just give them knock on the head and you've not given them one warning initially that we are planning to do this. You take things gradually. So my advice to policymakers is that for any changes to be done, there's need for procedures to be made. There's need for plans to be made ahead. The people in the society needs to be informed about what the government has in mind. Not just you waking up suddenly and tell the people that the interest rate has been increased to 24.75%, and it's quite high. You can't just wake up and tell people that are into importation that importation rates have been increased from 20-something percent, 28 or 30% to about 45% for importation and exchange rates. It's heartbreaking, because a businessman that has planned, has done everything, put everything in place, done the book and the budgetary works and income, expenditure, income and outcome and all that, will be destabilized. So it's not very good for the economy. For every rate of interest, for everything that has to do with monetary values in this country, there is an urgent need to be procedural processes. There's need for processes to take place. Put things in place that would reduce the effect of your increments, that will reduce the effect of your policies on the lives of the people. You are not just an individual. You are leading you are leading people, over 200 million people. So you can't just wake up in the morning and tell people that we've increased the rate. And this spreads around and even causes more inflations, because market people now will tell you that CBN has increased the rate of exchange rate to the exchange rate is high. CBN has increased interest rate. So those people that borrows money from banks to do their business, they will also add that increment in their goods. So it's all embracing, and it's all embracing, and everybody is being affected. So policies should people should be pre-informed, the citizens should be pre-informed about the changes in policies before making any move.
Now, talking about global, I'm asking how global economic trends and events can influence the naira, and like, okay, you rightly said what our policymakers should be most concerned about. Let's look at how trends outside globally can also affect the naira.
Well, when we talk about trends globally, for instance, we talk about the increment in the oil prices of oil and all that. When there is an increase in prices of fossil fuel and all that in the international market, it drastically affects us as Nigerians because Nigerian economy is based on fossil fuel. We are a fossil dependent economy. So globally, the economy becomes the local economy becomes dependent on the global economy because every increment or every changes that happens or price increment in the global markets trickles down to the local market because we are not an exporting country, we are an importing country. We depend on external products for survival. So when there is 1% increase in taxation in the global north, definitely that 1% increase will trickle down to us here in Nigeria. When there is an increase in the product in the OPEC in OPEC for the sales of fossil fuel in the market and all that, it will definitely trickle down to affecting our own local economy here because we are dependent on the global north markets. We are dependent on what the global north is fixing. We are dependent on what the dollar is saying. We are dependent on what euro is saying and all that. So it's really affecting us. The global market is part of what causes the increase and the challenges we are having today. So when there is a global event, it also leads to the increment in the issues of the dollar and the naira crunches.
I'm just going to ask you this very last question because you've raised very salient points, even outside of the naira. But what are the prospects with all of these that you have mentioned? And if going by some of the intricacies that you have mentioned, what are the prospects for the naira over the next few years, and what would constitute a turnaround for Nigeria's economy?
Well, for the prospect of the naira, I must be honest with you. I don't think there is a fair prospect for the naira against the dollar, except we start looking inward, like I explained earlier. We start thinking of how we can become a self-reliant country, how we can become a manufacturing country, how we can reduce our dependency on importation, how we need to reduce our dependency on fossil fuels, because fossil fuel market in the international prices in the international market actually deals and how affects the present state of our economy. Our budgetary allocations is dependent on the amount of crude oil that is sold out or the amount of crude oil that is exported out of this country. Until we diversify our attention as a country from dependency on fossil fuel as a benchmark for economic growth and all that, it will be difficult for us to excel and to break free from this naira dollar crunch. So what we need to do is to go back to the drawing board and start looking inwards on what we were dependent on in the past, what Nigeria as a country was known for. We were known for cocoa, we were known for palm oil production, we were known for groundnut production, we were known for oil palm production, and a lot more. So until we go back to the drawing board to start thinking of ways to increase our agricultural yield that will give rise to exports of our products, it will be difficult. And now in the global market, cassava is even a hot cake. Countries export cassava from some countries in Africa and other places to make various kinds of flour and all that. So we have the land, we have what it takes to go massively into agricultural production to diversify our economy away from dependency on fossil fuels Until we do that, it will be difficult, my sister. I tell you the truth. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you on the Naira comeback and the prospect for economic turnaround. We do hope that you grace our platform again, Mr. Cadmus.
If given the opportunity to do so. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Do have a beautiful day ahead.
And you too. Thank you.
That was a conversation on the Naira comeback with Cadmus Atake Enade, who is a business consultant and environmentalist. Incidentally, this is where we draw the curtains on Business Point. Do make sure you follow us on all our social media platforms at Global TV, NG, and other handles now showing on your screen. Until tomorrow, I'm Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching. See you again.